And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Corey Munson, coming to you live from Iowa. Joining me, as always, is Aaron Castro in Arizona and Liam Madigan-Freed in Texas. How's it going, guys? How was your weekend?
It was wild. I guess two things I gotta moan about. I guess one of them I'm not gonna moan about. Hey, shout out to one of the originals when it came to MLR podcasting. Sigs Gowan has moved to Phoenix apparently, so we're gonna watch some Six Nations and say what's up. Yeah, good dude. So he's just working on life, and I think I'm gonna try and find him a club because he was coaching a lot in Virginia. So, but the moan. Yo, Starfire Stadium. You're gonna host 2 tests. You can't use blue paint.
No.
Or for rugby lines. There are 2 international matches coming to Starfire. Whoever's in charge of the paint, or whoever's in charge of authorizing the color of the paint for the lines, it's white. And let's just do white because I know you have white washable paint, or I know you can requisition white washable paint. If you're
somewhere in the shed,
if you're gonna host a test, you can put white washable paint out, which means the next 7 home matches for the Seattle Seawolves, you can put white washable paint out. Just get it done because I couldn't see a line on the broadcast. Is that bad?
no, and I'll definitely back you up on that one. I totally thought that they were just using the the flags on the touch lines as well as the soccer lines to kind of try and gauge where they were. It wasn't until 15 or 20 minutes into the broadcast that I actually realized there were rugby lines. But as not that anybody asked, my weekend was definitely great. I got to work my first ever Major League Rugby game professionally with team operations. Was able to get some footage and edit it up for Fitzy, so that was definitely a cool first for me. And as of today, I officially just moved into my new apartment here in Houston, Texas, down off MLK Boulevard. So yeah, a lot of stuff happening for me this weekend, but I'm absolutely just glad that MLR is finally kicking off.
I tell you, moving is painful. So you found a spot.
I hate moving.
You found a spot. You're in the spot. I'm looking for a new spot, and it is painful because you're trying to balance, especially when you have a significant other, girlfriend or wife like Corey has. You got to balance their needs against yours, and yours usually don't count. So yeah,
apartments.com, baby.
or if you're in Cedar Rapids, walking down the street and looking for signs in the window.
Oh, you mean the old way? Hey, do you guys have the internet in Cedar Rapids?
No, I'm actually I'm broadcasting via carrier pigeon right now.
Corey, does your computer still go?
No, I replaced the internal hamster drive, and actually things have been a lot smoother now. I've upgraded to Weasel.
Oh, Weasel. I was going to ask, so you have a backup hand generator?
His wife is behind the computer right now. Just getting
you can't see her. Just got like an exercise bike back there and pedaling away. Why do you think we have the lights on right now?
Oh, man.
I don't know about you guys, but it is friggin' cold as hell up here.
So that was funny. So my uncle calls me. He's a Mennonite, and I'm out there. I'm out running. It was early this morning, and he goes, "Aaron, I just need to know what size of bed you have." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Well, we're in Chicago. We're snowed in, and this shit ain't gonna." Well, he didn't say that. This isn't gonna melt for like 4 days. So we pulled out all the denim stocks that we keep to make blankets. What size is your bed? Because we're making you a comforter. And I was like, sweet. I was like, king size. Yeah, let's just go. Yeah, so that's what Mennonites do when they're snowed in. They make blankets.
We make soup. That's kind of our go-to. Something warm and hearty. Soup or stew.
I smoke pot.
Oh, golly. So I guess we did get away. We did get out of town for a couple days, though. That was more of a tease than anything. We were down in McAllen, Texas. And holy cow, it was tough going from 70 degrees in the morning to 5 degrees when we flew into Cedar Rapids. So that was a little bit of a change. But you know what? We're surviving. We'll get through, as long as we can get through Wednesday with it being, I think right now they're saying it's supposed to be a high temperature of -17 on Wednesday. So as long as we can get through that, we'll be fine.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's going to like here in Texas, which is near apocalyptic levels.
It was 50 degrees and sunny out. So yeah, it was nice winter, Arizona.
Can't beat that, man. That's why everybody 65 plus from Iowa goes to Arizona during the winter.
Yeah.
So
talk about rugby or something?
Yeah, I think so. For those of you guys new to the podcast, we usually do talk about rugby. Each Monday night we get together, we discuss news, rumors, and everything else about Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union. This is our chance to look at the issues, hear from the league, talk to players, coaches, team members, and all that good stuff, as well as check in with our friends from across the country. So, with all that said, Aaron, you're going to fill us in on what we're talking about this week.
For the rundown, New Orleans Gold beats Toronto. Houston wins at Dell Diamond. New York wins as the new kid on the block, and the Seawall holds out. And the first game is New Orleans beats Toronto 36-31.
Yes, sir. So that was the very first game of season 2. It is here. We are here. We are playing rugby. It is a great time to be alive as a rugby fan in the U.S., man. So yeah, NOLA held out at home against the upstart Arrows. They managed to win by 5 points, 36-31. And not to give too much of a spoiler away for the rest of the recaps, but there was not a blowout this weekend at all. Every single game was tight. So tell us, guys, what did you kind of see at this one?
So, Johnny freaking Moonlight. Oh my gosh, the former Canadian Sevens captain, Johnny. Hope you listen someday. One of my favorite people in rugby and one of my favorite players as well. He scored Toronto's first try of their existence in Major League Rugby, and then his work rate, what he did around the pitch was pretty ecstatic. As you can tell, he was pretty sure he was named to Major League Rugby's first 15 this week. So, yeah, there it is. Oh, wait, I'm the person that sort of is in that process. Dan Moore, he didn't make the first 15, but he just barely got edged out by Brock Stoller from the Seattle Seawolves. He made his name known. 2 tries, Toronto, extremely dynamic player. I think we're hearing a lot from him, and they've got some guys. But NOLA, so NOLA lost a bunch of players to other teams, and they had to recruit well to get here. But guess what? Cam Dolan, Kyle Bailey, those dudes are freaks. Cam Dolan with 2 try assists, this crazy dish shoot that ended up with. I wrote it all down. It was sorry, gotta get them notes out. But this was an amazing try. Kyle Bailey surged through, dished it to Con Foley, then it was offloaded to Holden Younger and back to Con Foley for a try, and it was some beautiful stuff. Then let's talk about Tristan Bluet. He's an animal. What he did on the pitch, he's got the skills of a back row and the skills of a center in one, and he's ridiculous. Scored a try from NOLA as well, made the first 15 for Major League Rugby this week. And then, I think the Heat got a little bit to Toronto because, they've been practicing mostly indoors because of the weather, and, they just New Orleans just held on.
Liam, what do you think, man?
You're muted. Stop muting yourself.
Sorry, I'm looking at my notes because unlike Aaron, I have my notes up, just ready to go. But yeah. Also, I'm noticing in the sidebar, people wanted a fact check. I guess it was very rainy at Austin. Very very rainy indeed. But luckily, I was underneath a roof. So if people want to know that, yeah, that was a huge freaking factor. But right now we're talking about NOLA. And what I noticed was that NOLA was just playing a much faster game, and Toronto was just not getting the shift on their defense going fast enough in order to. Therefore, they were just leaving open a bunch of holes. I thought JP Eloff played really, really well from the back. You could hear him communicating with with his teammates all throughout the game. Overall, I think NOLA, they just looked like a squad that kept together. There was definitely some interchanging of people, but they kept together a pretty decent amount of the core group of guys, and that just you can kind of tell they look like a bunch of people who have been in the same system now for a year and are playing a lot more comfortably alongside each other. They also got, like Aaron mentioned as well, they have Cam Dolan and Kyle Bailey playing in the centers, and they're just playing out of their freaking minds. Plus, you've got Vince Jobo back healthy. As long as he stays healthy, people are going to have to account for him. We definitely cannot.
Back row. Back row.
Yeah, back row. But anyway, correction, by the way, Dolan and Bailey are at the flankers, not the centers. My bad on that. But yeah, this is a team that is no longer devoid of playmakers like they were at certain points last year. They're definitely going to be a threat to score some points. They're good. They're good defensively. There's definitely some work that needs to be done, particularly with the freaking arm tackles that they're just not bringing people down efficiently. But other than that, though, I thought it was a great game from Nolan. I think they're going to be having a great season.
Well, it's a good way to start out the season for sure, and we're glad to see it underway. We followed that one up Saturday night with Houston traveling to Austin, and this was a little bit of a grudge match. I think we got a little in-state rivalry going. Austin knocked off the SaberCats in preseason, but SaberCats came back. They won 21-20, and gotta love that. Gotta love having another really, really close game. Liam, tell us what you saw. I know you were actually at the match.
Yes, indeed, I was at the match, and like I said, it was pouring rain, but I luckily had a nice little spot underneath the roof up the right field line. So I was not toasty, but I was definitely pretty dry compared to a lot of people there. People watching the ESPN broadcast might have thought that there was nobody at this game, but I can assure you there definitely was. There was definitely well over 1,000 people standing underneath the roof in standing room, while there was just a few people really braving the elements out there in the chairs. So in terms of what I saw in the game, the name of this game was Territory. As I noted in my official match report that you can find on www.houstonsabercats.com, see how fast I said that, that's how you plug websites. Zinzan, Elon Puduk, and Zach Pangelanen, they went back and forth all day. They were trying to gain territory in compensation for how the rain kind of inhibited a lot of the big play potential for both sides. Overall, I thought Zach Pangelanen, won this round as he was able to find touch at a much greater depth and on a much higher average than Puduk, and he kept the elite scoring opportunities really to a minimum throughout the game. Now, even though there was definitely a bunch of lead changes, but thanks to Sam Windsor's foot and the lack of scoring opportunities for Austin, that's how they were able to pull out the wins. Speaking of Sam Windsor, the dude is a flippin' stud. Here's the difference from 2018, though.
I think a lot of girls are going to be flinging, they're going to be flinging some favors at him. So, but he's got an amazing wife who might just beat them all down.
And she's a wonderful lady too. I wouldn't want to mess with her. But like I was saying, though, I think the difference between this SaberCats squad and the one from 2018 is that in a lot of those instances in which they allowed Sam to kick for the goalpost, they probably would have tried to go for the try. And so that's definitely the difference, because as we remember, there was a lot of SaberCat games last year that came down to at times less than a conversion or just one score. And so maybe having a couple more points on the board in those situations would have changed different elements of those games. Who knows? It definitely I can say for sure if they had taken more opportunities to kick on Sam Windsor's foot, I think they definitely wouldn't have finished the season at 1-7 last year. Now, lastly, the biggest training camp battle for the Houston SaberCats, this past summer was at scrum half between Santiago Arata and Connor Murphy. Now, we've obviously seen by now how that played out. Santiago Arata got the start, and he played just about the first quarter of the second half before he was pulled in favor of Murphy. Now, these two are really they do really well paired together. They're kind of like the yin and the yang. You have Santiago Arata, who's able to play more of a fastball type of game, getting the ball out to playmakers. The Houston SaberCats, they were devoid of Joshua Vithi and Osea Kalinisau yesterday, unfortunately. But luckily, Malachi Esdale absolutely stepped up. And Packett and Pangellin, and especially with the ball in hand. So overall, I think Santi brings a great element to this team. Meanwhile, Connor Murphy is a lot more forward-oriented, a lot more methodical in how he moves the ball. And I think Fitzy really likes that, especially coming in the second half when you have those punishing forwards that Connor's just feeding the ball to consistently, and he's punishing that defense, making them work, and that's how you get the other team gassed. So it was definitely a great game from the SaberCats. It's not going to be sustainable if they want to win games on just Sam Windsor's foot. Obviously, they need to find a way to get tries, but yeah, great game.
I have a contrasting opinion there, but I'll get to it. Santiago Arata, the assassin, he brings an immediate change to the SaberCats. The scrum half, my opinion is he should have gone 80 minutes. His service, I thought, is better. His ruck management is better, but he brings also something else. He can put the kick. His kicks, in play, he made 100 meters off of it, off of his kicks that were put in play. So he brings some other pieces to his game that people don't really notice. And then, when his connection to Windsor, I just think that it's there automatically for some reason. It's just been better. Sam Windsor, 7 for 7, player of the week. Jeez. But what did concern me, and, Liam, you're saying, everyone says when you have the points, take the points. But the thing that concerned me is that they went for the points every single time. And I want to see, not just to see what their attack can do, but I also just for the product of the game, I want to see tries,
Yeah, but also, there's definitely a problem though with a win is a win, and the SaberCats needed to win. And if you want the product on the field to get better, then you need to have, that win to get the morale up, because players hated it when they were losing all last year. And this win was was definitely a hard fought one. And the fact that they won it on Sam's foot alone, it ups his leadership level in the locker room, where he's already the heart and soul of this team practically. So yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I see your point. There's validity to the fact that you obviously want to see them, try to actually punch a try in. That's what the fans want. But take the points when they're there, because one, it was raining. That there was that
was going to be my point. Is you look at the way this game, I thought it was the worst game of the weekend. And the reason why it was the worst game of the weekend, not because of the players, but so everything's filmed in HD. When you can see rain in HD, that means it's really bad. And it was pretty horrible. So really, it's even more to what Sam Windsor would the power that he can kick with to kick through that rain, because not all of those kicks were from good angles. And for Austin, I think their scrummaging settled in about into the second quarter. In the first quarter, they were really getting manhandled, especially Connolly on Simone Korkul. But it got a little bit more of an even matchup. But when it comes to this, no one knows what they're going to do when they get hit in the mouth. And you sort of saw that throughout the weekend. Is the team that was down early, they picked it up, and that's what led to a lot of this being close. But one of the other things for Austin was, yes, they went for tries, but to focus at the scrum half position, being just upgraded across the league, really, whether it's with backups or starters. Michael Romero was brought in last year at the end of the year, when Austin had injuries to both Newt O'Donnell, and because they had to bring in Marcus Walsh, and I forget their other scrum half's name. Wow, that's pretty bad of me. But he's an upgrade over what their other options were that stayed in the Austin area for the team, and that was a big thing. But overall, I think I would say this thing. I would say this isn't as bad of a rivalry as Glendale or Seattle may end up being, because they got into it up there.
Oh, yeah, that was the fourth game of the week, and we'll go ahead and hit on that one last. But before we get to that one, we got to talk about Rugby United New York getting out on the road. So, like the Arrows, they're our second expansion team of the season, and they got their start in sunny San Diego, facing off against the Legion. This one, similarly to the Houston-Austin game, it was close. This came down to the last minute or so. There was actually a few lead changes in the last 10 minutes of the game. So Rooney came out victorious on the road, winning 25-23. Aaron, I know you've got some thoughts on this one. Tell us what you're thinking.
So this is, I would say this is the one where I'm the most frustrated about, but there were two, this and the Seattle game I was really frustrated with the officiating. Paul Corbier was the center ref. I mean, he can take my criticism, or he can just, I'm just a pundit watching games, and I'm just like everyone else. I have, I watch what I watch, and so I saw. But it seemed to me that every marginal call went to whoever was, behind, and it wasn't. And those should go, for me, when it's a marginal call, should go to who is leading. Or it should just be a no call. It seemed, when New York was down, the marginal call went to them. When SD was down, the marginal call went to them. And that led to, this penalty try where the penalty before that was the questionable call from him. The penalty try, like that, the call was clear. I mean, that was he had his hand out. I guess the way to try and get away with these things is if you're going out there to try and intercept instead of being called for a deliberate knock-on, you can't let the ball go down. You have to, swat it up, for all those that are trying to get. And, of course, there was not another defender in the area that took his cues to make it look like it wasn't deliberate. Up front, let's talk about scrummaging. San Diego scrummaging has gotten a lot better. And it can become Nathan Sylvia, a guy who I wasn't high on last year when they brought him in midseason at San Diego. Well, he outscrummed Paddy Ryan, which is wild to me, but it happened. Joe Pietersen, he's real. You can see why they let tag leader and Ben Seaman walk. He 18 points for Pietersen with conversions, penalties, and a try. He can slice, he can dice, he can do whatever you need him to do. He's also their captain. Says a lot. Kenny Nazikek is number 8 or number 6, but he was forced to play in the engine room, so Locke continues to show that it is this thinnest position in the league. Luke Hume, my man, the robo-leg.
The ageless wonder.
Well, he's actually – I thought he was old, and then I think he's only 31. Which is crazy because he's been around the.
But
Eagles.
this is athlete time though. It's kind of like dog years, It's you got.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got in his leg. He's got a ton of hardware, and that he showed that he's still dynamic at club level. I don't think he's really got it in the tank for the Eagles level necessarily, but. He can definitely get it done. 2 try assists, made the first 15 at fullback. He can just be an annoying fullback, which is kind of what fullbacks are supposed to do.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. So in regards to this game, the first thing that I noticed was the difference in how each team actually ran with the ball in hand. More often than not, I felt like the San Diego players were losing potential meters on every possession by moving laterally as opposed to forward. They were looking for a hole that was continuously getting stuffed up by Rooney players. Meanwhile, in New York, I felt like they were very committed to running north-south, and that absolutely showed when you look at their average meters per pass, while definitely being greater than that of San Diego's. I felt like every time one of them touched the ball, they were actually gaining ground, whereas San Diego, more often than not, they were just kind of doing that side-to-side thing. Now, even if they were retaining possession, they weren't exactly going anywhere, and therefore they were just kind of tiring themselves out. Now, like Aaron said, I think Luke Hume still got it, even though, he's 31. But I loved his work from the 15, especially in being he was really wise, I thought, in his decision-making when kicking, in terms of whether he wanted to go for touch or whether he wanted to sharp shoot the gap in the back. That definitely worked out. Connor Wallace-Sims, definitely a player that I love to watch, especially
first 15 at 11.
First 15 at 11. But yeah, Connor Wallace-Sims, his ability to eat up the outside was just phenomenal to watch, and he was just constantly a threat. And I thought that San Diego was constantly spreading their they were spreading their defense out wide just to prevent Rooney from going out wide, and therefore that was just opening up stuff in the middle, and Rooney was just eating that stuff up. San Diego definitely had some bright spots, though. Ben Sema looked like he was working out. He was efficient, especially with some of his footwork, trying to find some room, particularly in the second half when San Diego actually started to come to life a little bit and put some points on the board. Boyer at scrum half. How tall is he, Aaron? I want to say like 6'2".
6'3".
Yeah, 6'3". That's huge for a freaking scrum half. Kroll, 6'4", from Linden State College, now NVU. I played with him, the tallest scrum half I've ever personally met, but that's just because we were D3, D4 and didn't know how to properly position people.
It's the reason why you see Ruben De Haas other than Ruben De Haas really being dirty. But the reason why you see both him and Nick Boyer is it's very juiced Van der Westhuizen in the mold of the great South African scrum half and what. Like South Africa, other than Faf de Klerk right now, has like a history of just big physical nines. And a lot of those nines also have different skill sets. Some are looking to run and some are looking to kick. But you see the way Gary Gold is selecting these teams. I mean, Nick Boyer plays to that. I mean, he's basically a 7 in playing scrum half with his skills. So
yeah, well, it almost reminds me of a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson or something like that, where you can't just count on the scrum half just passing it out of the ruck and being weak at the breakdown. He proved that by getting a try for San Diego. I believe it was the first try of the match for San Diego. He made them bite by faking it to the outside before he actually took the opportunity to go right up the A gap. It was great to watch, and it's really cool to see a scrum half with a much more physical element. What are you fact checking me? Whether or not he got the freaking first try.
The first try for San Diego at 37-10. Nick Boyer, right there.
Darn Skippy, but yeah, he brings a lot more. He brings a much more, dare I say, offensive element to the scrum half position, even though that position is all offense. But yeah, I love him being a lot more of a threat, and I think that's going to make a big difference for San Diego, especially in tight games.
All right. The final one.
Yeah, the last one of the weekend. 4 games, 4 outstanding matches, and the best for last. The CBS game of the week was the rematch of the Seawolves versus the Raptors. And similarly to the championship last year, the Seawolves came out on top, winning 20-18. The one thing that stuck out to me, and I'll let you guys get deep into analysis of play, but dang, once again, Starfire was freaking lit. Seattle has some of the best fans in this competition, and I don't think there's anybody that can argue with that right now. So I think that really helps with their home games, really propel them to victory on a regular basis, and Sunday night was no different. Liam, start us off. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. You can't really match the intensity of the Seattle Seawolf fans. At this point, I've gotten past the whole booing the kicker thing. I think it's their identity. It's American rugby. There's obviously going to be different things. Even at Dell Diamond versus the Houston SaberCats during Sam's game-winning kick, they were booing the crap out of him. It's whatever. People are getting into it. That means they're liking it.
People are saying, hey, respect the kicker. Guess what? Respect.
No.
Respect. What does respect mean? There are different ways to show respect. They're booing him.
They're respecting the fact that he can probably make it if they don't boo him.
So people are like, we're going to boo the kicker because this is what we do. But if we don't, they think if we don't throw a wrench in his gears, he's just going to make it. Mm-hmm. Or, some people, and some people say, well, silence is actually a bigger issue if you're going in there and it's stone silent. But I mean, what does respect mean in this case? They know that these guys can kick, and they're just gonna boo because they want to get in their head, and that's just American sport.
Respect is just defined by the old Englishman that's on the sidelines at every rugby game through Division 1 through Division 4. Oh, they're not showing any respect.
It's a made up.
Welcome to America, man.
This is a made up argument that people just needed something to argue about. It's exactly like the water breaks, and we can get into that if you guys want, but it doesn't matter.
Hey, water breaks are legal. It's in the law book. Go
and there's probably nothing in the law book about booing the kicker, is there?
No.
So there you go. It's a non-issue, guys.
Yeah. But anyway, on to the actual game. You could tell this is a really good rugby game because there was points where I was rooting for both teams. Like obviously working for the SaberCats, I have my team who I'm rooting for, and the Free Jacks aren't exactly in the league yet. So this was kind of a neutral game for me, but I was just loving what I was seeing. I thought it was really, really competitive. We saw a lot of what we saw from Glendale in the preseason, which was a lot of their individual guys were winning one-on-one matchups in the open field because they're just so physical and they're so hard to bring down. One player to spotlight, just because his journey's been really interesting, Mika Cruze. There was times where he was definitely a lot more stable and a lot more aware of what was going on than he was last season. But then again, especially at the end of the game where he committed, essentially the game-losing knock-on, you could just tell he was still learning in a lot of ways. The kid's still only 20 years old. He has all the physical gifts that you could ever want from a rugby player. But, putting the ball into your lead shoulder going into contact, that's a total rookie move, and it's one that he made last night that may have cost his team a shot at the comeback. He was pulled for a substitute not long after that happened, and as we know, I think Coach Williams is a pretty harsh critic when you make a mistake like that.
He's probably the most intense coach in Major League Rugby.
Yeah,
I've sat down with him like multiple times, and it's you can absorb his intensity by osmosis.
Yeah, I've had one conversation with him in my career so far. He was definitely really nice, but he was talking about as fast as I was just a few minutes ago, and you could tell at that point he was relaxed, version of him.
Yeah.
but anyway, definitely to highlight Seattle's defense, they could just not be outworked, I thought. Glendale, whenever they were playing fastball, that's when they were in their groove and they were exposing some of Seattle's flaws. However, eventually, the sea wall was just finding ways to slow them down, and whenever Glendale slowed down, that's when they made their mistakes. This team has had a problem with discipline since last season, and I'm not just talking about starting fights, even though I think there was a few of those, but I'm just talking about knock-ons and not rolling away, not releasing, coming in from the side. It's penalties like that can be corrected as long as you're staying aware that Glendale was just shooting themselves in the foot with, and we absolutely saw that during the game. Overall, great show from the man with the greatest hair in the game, Vili Tolatahu. I loved his work on defense. He put on some punishing hits. Vili's, I guess you could say, arch rival in terms of the hairdo game, Connor Cookie Cook. He was definitely very physical in the defensive game, especially in staying an option for his scrum half, especially in the trenches. Matt Turner was great last season. He was a little off in this one, committing one or two mistakes that cost his team some position. Hopefully he gets over those.
My man was trying to get himself killed, making clear outs. Like Matt is not a big man, and he was putting his body in places where it don't go.
He's a scrappy mofo, ain't he? But and then obviously I gotta mention just once Hanko Hammerscheis was a ball of fire both in play and after the whistle. But I'm gonna let Aaron talk about that because I know you like to talk about controversial individuals.
Jacobus. So let's talk about officiating again. Pali DeLuca, you better listen to me on this one. So playing advantage, scrum penalty. Hanko comes up with the ball. The penalty went to Seattle. It was going to be their kick. Hanko's not really sure what's going on because all he knows is the whistle was blown. He sees that he has the ball, so he's thinking, they won the penalty on the scrum for dominant scrum, and no, it's a penalty conceded, and Seattle's going to take the kick and then take the lead. What happens? Well, George Barton from 50 meters away just flies in and just starts clapping right in Hanko's face. So cynical, my opinion. Either that's probably a yellow because that just needs to be stamped out for the rest of the season. He needs to be made. That's an example time, right? And the minimum is just a penalty reversal, and that was just very frustrating to watch there. But that's not the reason why that kick, like Brock Stoller hitting that kick, isn't the reason why Glendale lost. We can talk about that too. So I love the way Glendale played. Last year, I thought they played very rigid out of their 1-3-3-1 attack, and you saw in the preseason that they've shifted. They play out of a very wide open, very fast 1-3-2-2. The tempo, it's what they're doing is being very creative. Will McGee is being asked to put the ball down on chip kicks. I think he kicked the ball like 15 times. It was a lot. I really love what they were doing. But let's talk about why Glendale lost this game. Because if they didn't have these handling errors with the tempo that they were playing, it's a win. And it's probably a win by 10 points because they were getting it done on defense, and it was just going. Like, they were playing fast, and the Seawolves really weren't able to keep up. I have to disagree with my work colleagues, Pete Steinberg and Dan Power over at MLR Kickoff, in that if you looked at the stat sheet, which I had a chance to look at, it was close. Like, if you look at it, they're almost identical slot for slot. Glendale ended up with about 150 more meters gained, 5 less tackles made than Seattle. Seattle conceded 9 penalties. Glendale conceded 6. The thing that Seattle had is they won 100% of their scrums. But guess what? They didn't win 100% of their lineouts. Glendale had a better lineout percentage, and they stole 3 lineouts versus 1 stolen from Seattle. So this is how close this game was. Let's talk about Brock Stoller. I know you got fined. So here's a great story. If anyone is missing this out, so I was talking to Matt Turner. It was last year at the playoffs, and he had like highlights in his hair, like the tip of his hair, and we're asking him, "What's up with that? I mean, are you just being funny?" So if you're late, apparently, if you're late, or there's a variety of things that happen. Well, if you get fined in Seawolves camp, you have to put highlights in your hair. And if you looked at Brock Stoller's hair, he definitely got fined because that is not his hair. So, my man, I love you, but show up to work on time. But Brock Stoller, let's talk about him. He is the 3rd leading point scorer with 15 again. For Major League Rugby. He did something beautiful. He put the ball down with his foot, and he chased that thing. He chased that chip, picked it up, and scored a try. It was probably one of the most beautiful things you could ever see. And Glendale obviously wasn't in position to recover and stop him. So he did what he needed to do. Ben Sema, upgrade at fly half. Seattle didn't have a healthy fly half last year. I don't think Will Holder is really a fly half. I think he's more of a center. He's got that physical inside center holder body that will just crash through things, but his distribution isn't really there for a fly half, and his kicking isn't there. But Ben Sema, like, I guess Richie Walker told him earlier in the week, is like, dude, keys are yours, and I think we will see Ben Sema develop this year with the Seawolves because he had finally the coaching to make him progress. Not that, Life Gorge wasn't good. It got him to test level. It gained him at test level, but now we're in a different place than when he was first capped. So, Glendale. I love the fast tempo. I love the hold on the ball. There were 7 or 8 knock-ons and 20 handling errors or something like that. It was a lot, which is why they were Seattle was able to do what they did with their defense. When you hold on to the ball and you play good defense, you win things. But as far as the other guy to talk about, Liam mentioned Henko Hammerscheis. There's been some criticism. I looked at the stat sheet, and this is Henko's stats: 80 minutes, 14 carries, 152 meters, line break, 4 broken tackles, 17 tackles. So if you all the calculations for work rate, he led the Raptors. This is, I said at the end of last season that he needed to go overseas because that's where he was going to develop the fastest and more, because where he has to fight for that position, and he's in a position where he's training hard, but he's the guy, So that's my take for this week, and we're going to get into match previews. But Corey, tell us how bad we did.
Well, so we always like to, during the regular season, go back and kind of look at our match predictions from the previous week, and at the end of the season, then we'll kind of crown one of us the grand loser of the whole thing. So we don't care about winners; we only care about losers at this place.
Damn, Skippy.
So, Liam, I think I'm going to let you guess on your first one here, but we had Toronto go at NOLA. The final was NOLA winning by 36-31. Aaron, you said Toronto by 3. I said NOLA by 7. And Liam, what'd you have on that one?
I honestly can't even remember, although I do believe that I picked Toronto to win the game.
Okay, fair enough. So I'll go ahead and take that one. I get at least one. Houston at Austin. We had Houston winning 21-20. Liam, what'd you put down on that one?
I believe that I put down Houston by 3. They won by 1, so I was only 2 off. I believed in my guys down here in Houston, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Aaron and I went with Austin on this one. He said by winning by 4. I said winning by 14. So we were both off there. Rooney at San Diego. Final was Rooney 25-23. I said San Diego by 7. Aaron had San Diego by 3. Liam, who'd you have winning that one?
I had Rooney winning this one by 12, and that obviously did not come to fruition.
But you still get a win. Hey, take it.
Damn Skippy.
And then final game of the weekend, Glendale at Seattle. We had Seattle 20-18 over Glendale. Aaron, you said Seattle by 3. I said Glendale by 3. And Liam, you had Seattle by 7. So looks like Aaron and Liam had that one down pat. So good work, guys.
3-1, baby.
Yeah.
1-3. Bottom of the table.
So let's go ahead and move on to this week. We are starting off the weekend with Utah at Austin. And this will be the first game that's going to be on Facebook Watch instead of ESPN or CBS. That'll be Friday night.
Houston's game was broadcast on Facebook Watch.
Oh, it was?
Yes, indeed it was. I actually edited the footage that came from it today.
Yeah, because it was an Austin home game. So all Austin home games, except the CBS games, are on Facebook Watch.
I'm sorry, guys.
And then later available on Vimeo.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so the second game of the week, or second game of the season on Facebook Watch. So that's some solid fact checking there. Thank you, guys. Will be Friday night, Utah at Austin. And I'm going to go ahead and put down that I'm going to go with Utah on this one, on the road. No, I think Austin will beat Utah. All right, I got to make my notes easier to read here. Jesus. Yeah. I think Austin's going to win at home. And they're going to win by 3. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Austin's going to win this one.
Yeah. For for this one, I'm going to go with Utah -5. I think Utah is they've added some players who can play a little bit more fast. Also, I got to believe in my guy Ian Luciano. I'm going to say, like I said, Utah -5.
So Austin's attack was pretty evident. We know what they want to do from what they did in the rain. Like playing that expansive of a game in the rain says a lot. They're going to use their tactical kicking game to set up maul opportunities from the line out. It's really hard to tell because Utah's really only preseason action was against Life West in a closed scrimmage. But Life West just ran over San Francisco Golden Gate 45-18, which is a pretty similar score Seattle put on Golden Gate. Funny. So maybe this is going to be closer than I'm thinking. But my pick is Austin -5 for the weekend.
Second game of the weekend, we got Glendale traveling to New Orleans, and that one is going to be on Saturday on ESPN+. Aaron, who do you like?
Glendale's going to look to bounce back from their loss against the Seawolves. They're going to continue to play wide open. However, they're going to face a very potent attack from the New Orleans Gold that will test their defense, unlike what the Seawolves were doing. I've got Nola -2 in this. They're going to go 2-0 at home to start this thing. And also the heat is going to be different for Glendale's got because they just went to sea level and played in the cool stuff. But they're going down to the bayou, and they're training in the snow right now at Glendale. So it's going to be like 60, 70, and a little humid. So,
Liam, how about you?
Well, so I just cannot see Glendale going 0-2 on the season, even though I feel like I might eat my words, especially after Nola put in that performance this week against Toronto. However, I'm just going to go with my gut on this. I'm going to say Glendale by 7. However, if Nola can find a way to force Glendale into playing some slow ball and forcing those mistakes just like Seattle did, then yeah, this game could definitely go another way. But for now, I'm saying Glendale.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on that one. I'd love it if Gold, like you say, found a way to win this one, but I don't see it happening. I think it's going to be Glendale. I'm going to go Glendale by 10.
Ooh. Double digits.
Big number. Okay, the last game of the weekend, last MLR game of the weekend anyway, is going to be Seattle at San Diego, traveling down the coast. Mm-hmm. Liam, who do you like on this one?
I think Seattle wins just because I think they're going to be able to expose the same kind of weaknesses on San Diego's defense that Rooney was able to. They're going to beat them to the outside with all the playmakers that they have, including Peter Tiberio. Matt Turner, I think, is going to have a great bounce back. So look for Seattle to win this -5.
I'm going to go with this being a real easy win for Seattle. I think they're looking good. I like what they put on the field this weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and say Seattle by 14.
So the last time Glendale and Seattle faced off, it was it was pretty chippy, right? And in the championship, and then it was chippy again this weekend. The last time these two faced off, which was in the playoffs in Glendale, it was pretty chippy. It was competitive. Look, you're going to see San Diego take another step forward. They're scrummaging, settled in this weekend, and you're going to want to see them improve at home. Also, the heat and the sun can be a factor for Seattle. But look for Seattle's defense to shine and eke this one out -3. But this could be a tri-fest, I'm thinking. I'm not thinking this is going to be 2 grudge match defenses. I'm thinking they're going to score.
Okay, look for some fast-paced rugby on the field, potentially. Then we can't, of course, we can't talk about action coming into the weekend without hitting on the ARC starting up. We've got USA at Chile, and I didn't take the time to write down what day this was.
So it's on Saturday.
It's on Saturday, and I believe it's on Flow Rugby, correct?
Black Box. It's on Black Box.
So go ahead and talk us through it, Aaron. What we got to look forward to?
It's really going to be interesting to see the kind of side that comes in. Yes, it's on Flow Rugby. I think Gary is going to name in the first two matches against Chile and Argentina 15, the best 15 we have available, because then most European pros will go back to their clubs so that they can play during the Six Nations for those fixtures. Look for a comfortable win from the United States, even if it's not the strongest side. I'm going USA minus 30 because guess what? Chile's on their fourth coach in 4 years. They've had a lot of turmoil, just funding issues. Coaches don't want to stay because, Chile is going to cut funds to the 15s program, and then, coaches walk. And then they tell the next coach, hey, we're going to give you a lot of money. So, U.S. is going to walk away with this pretty handily. But it is also the first game out of the chute, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so it's really going to depend on me for who the starting 23 are. And until they're named, it's hard to kind of get a gauge on how this game is exactly going to go. But I'm going to follow Aaron's lead. I'm going to say minus 21 in favor of the USA. Chile, and as well as all of South America, they definitely have a lot of up-and-coming clubs, especially at the national level. But unfortunately, they're just not there yet, especially with the ascending USA. So like I said, USA minus 21.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. That was me. That was all me. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Chile either, so I'm going to go ahead and just say USA by 20 on this one. So we'll see what happens. I won't see what happens because I can't afford Flow, so I guess I'll read about what happens later.
Apparently, it's on. So if you're on the East Coast, this is okay because the times aren't horrible. But if you're not on the East Coast, the times are trash. The ESPN will be airing these games on delay, like 5 a.m. on Sunday. I think two of the USA games are on delay at like 3 a.m. on ESPN News on Eastern time. Flow Rugby is your go-to official source. And if I know a lot of people protest that deal and they go to the black box. What I don't understand about this whole thing is ESPN owns the entire rights to the ARC, but Flow Rugby apparently has purchased the rights to the other two games on the weekend, but they aren't showing the whole thing live. They're only showing the USA games live. So that kind of annoys me. I wish they'd release those rights and give them back to ESPN because then we can watch those games. But I think Liam and I are both working this weekend, so maybe never mind.
Once again proving that I'm not sure Flo really cares about rugby fans in the U.S.
They care about their contract, their precious contract.
If they open it up for free, we can do that. So.
All right. Hey, it is time, guys, for my favorite section of the show. It is time for questions from Bob. So this is something we do every single week, as often as we can anyway. We collect questions from over on the Reddit page. The Reddit page for Major League Rugby is RML Rugby. And I'm happy to announce that we are quickly approaching the 3,000 mark in subscribers. So hit that subscribe button, guys, and sign up for great conversations. We have just been absolutely flooded with not only questions for Bob, but also just stats and information and rumors. That's where we get a lot of the stuff we talk about on the show. So definitely go check out RML Rugby on Reddit. So on to questions. First up, SD Yeti wants to know, any actual attendance numbers available for the 4 matches this weekend?
Well, you missed the first question. Or did I? Oh, yeah. Okay.
I scrolled past it.
to Aging Hooker, your views on whether the ref lost control of the Seattle versus Glendale match. If you rewind back to the start of the Seawolves segment, you'll know my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. There was definitely a lot of instances in which that ref could have set the example that he just failed to. So there's my opinion.
Now to attendance numbers from SD Yeti. Yes, I do. 1,604 for Austin versus Houston at Dell Diamond. And also an addendum to that question, because you asked the second question. So Austin has gone from 50 season tickets sold to 400 season tickets sold this year. So that's a big change. Now, the other matches, New Orleans had 1,500. The figure that I've been able to find for San Diego was 2,000, but I have to say that crowd looked a lot better, yet it's still better than the first game last year. And Seattle really isn't going to get any better when it comes to this, and that's partially they're limited by capacity right now. They did add 100 extra permanent seats, so they've sold the number I have is there were 3,600 people there. I don't know what the standing room only tickets were who walked in the gate, so I'm gonna say it was around 3,800 last year. So what they maxed out at, so 300, they had about 300 standing room only tickets. So let's say, give or take 3,750 probably, but they're still stuck. They're hamstrung by their capacity, so they can't really grow unless Starfire Sports decides to yank out the stand on the bench side and put in something better. I think it's very soon they're going to have that conversation, or they're going to move. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. But as far as on the aggregate, other than the Seawolves, everyone is up. The Seawolves couldn't go anywhere but up. But down. Oh, not the Seawolves couldn't go anywhere in week 1, but down. So they have stayed the same, which is what you want to see. But everyone else, Austin, from the first game last year, if you compare them this game versus their average last year, they had a 60% increase from the average, but 120% increase from their first game last year, and NOLA is about 40% better than their first game last season. So,
and do we have any information?
So that was
Austin for season ticket holders.
So Jeff says that was 2,000. So Jeff says that SD has sold 2,000 season tickets. So it was more than 2,000 people. You think it is, Jeff? Do you think it was like 3,000 people?
Well, I mean, does that 2,000 apply to group packages as well? Like is it just individual?
I think that's like butts and seats is like what the total season tickets they've sold. Which actually, if you looked at that broadcast, it looked like there was about 2,500 people there. So still got to work on getting non-season holders in there, but it was much better than their first game. Their first game was not over 2,000, and the homestand, when it finally filled in on the north side of Torrero, it was full. There were, I think, when you watch those broadcasts, when they panned to the VIP side, which is the south stand, there weren't that many people last year, but at least I saw like 50 to 100 people this year in the VIP side. And then the east stand, which is where you can now drink beer. You used to only drink in the beer garden, but if you drink beer, you can sit in the east stand in the east tri-zone. So, all right, thank you, Jeff. Closer to 3,000 is what I thought I saw. So there you go, which is a great improvement from San Diego's week 1 attendance from their first home game. So
we've come a long way.
Come a long way, baby. All right. Say Ni is asking, has there been any announcements as to when TMO will be added to MLR?
So I don't know. I know that there are 4 TMOs that have been assigned to the slate. There were no TMO games this weekend.
Yeah, not too sure on the information in that regard. So thank you, Aaron.
And just for those,
I got my information from Brian Ray. So there you go.
And TMO is the video officiating.
So it's like
instant replay.
It's like replay in college, not replay in the NFL. That makes
Television
sense.
monitor official.
Yeah,
There
thank you.
go.
So just for everybody's information. Okay, Bob B. Bubberson, one of our favorites and namesake of this segment, wants to know, will we continue to see this level of parity in the games, or was this just a slate of well-paired matches?
I think this was definitely a well-paired slate of matches, and hopefully, every team has gotten better in some aspect since the offseason, especially with the coaches all being allowed to continue to year 2. But at the same time, injuries are eventually going to be a factor. People are going to get a lot more game film on the new systems being run by each team. So I think, we're going to see a few blowouts this season, but I also think we're going to see a lot higher quality on average throughout the league this year.
Parity, I think there's going to be a lot of parity, but I think we know who the top 2 teams in the league are, and I think they're only going to get better. Oh yeah, we do. Did you watch that match? That was insane.
I know, but I just don't know how. I just don't know how they're going to pair against Rooney, or if Toronto's ever going to hit their stride. It's. I
think everyone got better. It's a question of how much better everyone else got, because Seattle and Glendale were in the final, and then they put on the highest quality match of the weekend, but they got to play everyone else. That's why we play this sport. So we really don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of parity, but I think there are going to be some blowouts because it's rugby. And as Alan Yarday says, I don't like to give up the ball, because in 15s, you never have to give up the ball. You can just continuously score. So that means not committing errors, not committing penalties, and you can just continuously score. So if one team is going to be able to have a perfect game and they're going to score 70 points, and the other team is just going to be flat. It's going to happen because this is rugby. It happens, it happens in the Premiership, happens in the Pro 14, happens in Super Rugby.
All right. Downey Keene wants to know, any word on a Dallas team next year?
Yes.
So there is, but I know nothing.
I know that the money has been put down. People have been talking about it in league circles. I don't know who's on the roster. I don't know who's coaching.
Okay, so maybe movement, but nothing that we can officially confirm. USA Rugby fan wants to know, would an all-star team of MLR compete with a Pro 14 or Premiership team?
No.
You mean a bottom of the table team? Yes, the team that he gave us, Sail Sharks, like they're 4th or 3rd on the table in the Premiership. I think that they would still beat that MLR All-Star team like 50-0. They are dirty.
Mm-hmm. Not to say that we don't have talented players, but it's just a matter of minutes. It's a matter of system. It's no insult to our players. It's just where we're at realistically.
Now that being said, it will be interesting to see what happens when we have the A sides, the Pro 14 A sides coming over to play Free Jacks in some exhibition matches.
But most of the Free Jacks won't be contracted. And they won't be practicing. They've got a lot of guys in that are competing for contracts next season. But at the end of the day, most of those guys are still working day jobs.
Well, there has been ink put to paper in terms of some of the players. I have a few friends on the team who have signed
a futures contract.
Futures contract, I guess. Yeah.
So,
all right. The Benjamin Rush wants to know, this came off Twitter, is it too early to buy NOLA playoff tickets?
There's those websites that you can buy Super Bowl tickets or World Series tickets for your team at like a cheap rate. Based on a 1-game sample, it wouldn't be a bad bet.
I would say it's probably better to be fashionably late in this situation than it is to be way too early. Not to say that NOLA, can't do it. They absolutely have the pieces to make a playoff run. But again, one game in, there hasn't been any significant injuries yet. There hasn't been a whole lot of game film for these teams to prepare for one another, other than from last year where there was different players, different systems. I would say maybe wait 3 or 4 more weeks. It's all good.
Last question of the night comes from friend of the show, Gordon Hanlon, and I think he's got a little bit of his tongue in his cheek here. He wants to know, how big was the thank you basket given to the refs for the Houston-Austin game?
Come on, Gordon. Come on, Gordon, man. We won that game fair and square. I'm honestly not even going to be arguing. I could go into this all night right now. I'm a freaking Pats fan. You think I don't know how to argue when people accuse my team?
You heard it here first. Houston's been deflating their balls.
Jesus.
I've not seen anything on PSI required in rugby balls. Okay.
There is a required PSI. I can't remember exactly what it is.
I need to look it up because I always pump it because rugby balls are not like football, like pigskin, because there's an internal bladder, so you just pump it until it's like hard. And whereas like football, you can kind of like squeeze it. And because if you're able to squeeze a rugby ball, it's too flat. It's just not going to pass well, and it's not going to kick well.
It's funny when for the Houston SaberCats first exhibition game against the Elite, I actually was the one who pumped up all the Houston SaberCat provided balls, and Sam Windsor walked in and saw me doing this activity and proceeded to inspect my balls, being like, "Yep, too soft. This one's good. Too soft. This one's good."
So Gilbert balls require 10 psi. There you go. That's a lot.
But we're using RAM rugby balls, aren't we?
Oh yeah. Well, that probably means 12.
Yeah. Yes. And kickers allegedly hate these balls, from the things I have heard.
I think they hated it last year, whoever the new, like Michael Romero probably hates it because he's new. He's a new kicker. I think everyone's kind of used to it at this point, except the new guys. But they do kick weird because Gilbert has this international patent on like balance of a rugby ball. It's weird. I mean, Adidas, because here's the thing. So, like, someone did the numbers on Bowden Barrett. So, Adidas is the All Black sponsor. Guess which ball he kicks better with? Gilbert. So, there you go.
Gilbert.
All right. This thing's getting a little too deep for my taste. So, I'm thinking we go ahead and just shift to final thoughts and go on home. What you guys got for me?
If you can, try to watch the Eagles this weekend. It is also the first week of the Six Nations as our friends. Well, I guess not really our friends because we're sort of fans of them. The Egg Chasers. It is the most rugbyest time of the year. Six Nations, ARC, MLR. It's hot. And
sounds like a song.
Yeah, Super Bowl's on this weekend, baby. Go Patriots. I don't give a darn what any of you have to say about the refs. This is going to be a great Super Bowl. Jared Goff is not going to be able to handle this. The Rams defense is not going to have an answer for Sony Michel or James White. And watch the Eagles if you can, and watch MLR. That's always good, too.
That's always good, yep. Alrighty, guys. Well, just a few notes on our way out. As always, please know that the opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of the hosts and the guests, when we have guests, and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or practices of Major League Rugby teams or the league. Aaron Castro is employed by Major League Rugby. Liam Madigan-Freed is employed by West Houston Lions and the Houston SaberCats. All right, got all that legalese out of the way, so be sure to tune in next week. We'll be live on YouTube as we are every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Available on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday morning. If you like what we do, please subscribe to us on YouTube and on iTunes. Give us a star review. That helps folks find us. And as always, please feel free to share your news, views, and abuse for us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can always email us at earfulofdirt@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you guys so much for listening, and go watch some rugby.